tail waggers, 2 jewelry stores, Eric King, Stephen Isley, Whitefish Pottery, Dick Idle Art Studio. Parking is a real issue. And yes, they have been in Whitefish. They've been in the middle school. And you furnished them a parking lot, a surface parking lot that's dramatically larger than the one there that's being used by all those other businesses. And so I'm not going to belabor it. I'm just saying that you have an obligation to the people who have grown up with Whitefish to help them survive. And this may not be about parking, but it is about parking.
Thanks, Turner. Tim Murphy. And I have Tim Dahlstrom next, and Colton. Hi, Tim.
Mr. Mayor, Council, my name is Tim Murphy. I live at 2325 Houston Circle here in Whitefish. But why I'm here is I'm a partner in a building next to the proposed building at 346 Central Avenue. We have 2 professional businesses in there, State Farm Insurance, and also Whitefish Eye Center. And when I spoke at the public hearing for the planning board, I brought up a few questions, and I want to re-emphasize those. And one of them is this the highest and the best use of the last premium commercial location in downtown? Also, does it meet the city's master plan for long-term growth and sustainability? I think from that hearing and what came out about the denial of the permit, that it does not meet neither one of those. And I think the city council needs to take a hard look at that. Number 2, everyone keeps talking about the parking. Well, we live with it down there on the corner of 4th Street and Central. And so many people used to, and it was great because of Frank Lloyd Wright, but it's gone, and all that parking's gone. And now we have no parking hardly for staff. People that work downtown, they're parking everywhere they can, and it's right around our buildings. And so with the Whitefish Eye Center, they obviously need public to be able to get into their building, and it's not there. There's no parking, even for us. So I just think that we really need to take a hard look at what's going on down there. And because it's a huge issue, and it's going to be even turned into more of a nightmare if we have that construction. We have the Frank Lloyd Wright location reconstruction. You've got central location. You've got 2 streets being repaved down there and redug up. So we really need to look at that. And this is just me. I have a significant personal financial investment in our building. And I'm concerned that this permitted usage will discount the property value of my investment. Finally, I'm in support of the concept of spiritual growth in our community, but I don't believe that the 300 block of Central Avenue is the best location for this proposed building. Thank you for your time.
Thanks very much, Tim. Is Tim Dahlstrom here?
Mr. Mayor, City Council members, I do appreciate the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I'm Tim Dahlstrom. I live at 399 Ponderosa Lane in Kalispell, and I'm also the pastor at First Presbyterian Church at the corner of 3rd and Central. Quite a bit of what I would have spoken with you about tonight has already been raised. I really don't want to raise it again, but I think there is a significant point here that does need to be made and not passed over, and that is that you cannot separate traffic and parking throughout the week on a Monday through Saturday basis and then look at Sundays separately. It just simply does not work at the south end of Central Avenue. You currently have 3 churches that are holding services, one beginning at 9, 2 others beginning at 10 o'clock. Turner mentioned 15 businesses. There are actually probably 15 plus businesses that are open on Sunday morning as well. They begin to open at 9 a.m. This doesn't deal with the issue of what happens during even the summer when the population in town swells up. And there's even less parking for us down at this end of Central. And particularly, I think for people who are elderly and people who are disabled, there's a tremendous lack of parking already available for them down there. This is going to take away even more, which will deny them the ability to avail themselves of current church and shopping opportunities. Much has been said about the people who would come in for shopping downtown. There's also going to be an aspect where people will be driven away because they simply will not have the ability to come and shop there anymore. So we certainly do just encourage you to consider the real potential negative consequences to this and to support the planning board recommendation that the conditional use permit not be extended. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments, Tim. Colton is next, and then I have Bruce, Tate, and Terry Balaska, if I pronounced that correctly. If not, I apologize.
Hey, tall guy, sorry. My name is Colton Born. I live at 413 Missy Lane here in Whitefish, and I would like to echo what a couple people have already said. I think that a lot has been said, so stuff that I've already prepared I'll leave out. And I have a lasagna in the oven as well that I'd like to get to. So as long as, if I can get out of here quick, that'd be nice. So I actually currently serve as the pastor of Fresh Life Church here in Whitefish, the campus pastor. And it's an absolute privilege and an honor to get to do that, to get to be a part of such an organization in a community like this, which has already been said time and time again, is absolutely incredible. It's the best place I've ever lived and the place that I hope to live moving forward for a long, long time. Ultimately, I'm sure you guys could guess I'm in favor of this project being approved. And I think that John Mark did an awesome job of talking about kind of the main issues that were raised at the planning board meeting and just, like you guys said, sticking to the merits of the project and getting down to just the facts of it. But one thing that I would like to bring up that you can't really quantify, you can't really bring into a proposal, or you can't really put into a plan necessarily, is something that I've been thinking about recently. I actually recently took an opportunity to look at the downtown master plan, and it was actually, as has been mentioned, it was cited as kind of one of the major issues in this proposal, in the CUP being denied. And I think it's really impressive, actually, what we're trying to do. I think that it majors on growth, it majors on industry, on preserving character, on adding beauty, but ultimately, what I think that kind of all summarizes in is what I would like to call adding life. It adds life to downtown. That's what we're trying to do with this plan. And I've also been thinking a little bit about our city's unofficial motto. Maybe it's official, I guess I don't know, but love lives here. Love lives here. I'm sure you guys have seen the bumper stickers. I love that motto. I think it's amazing. And it says something about us as a community that is incredible. And I was looking up quotes earlier. Gandhi once said, come on, when you cite Gandhi, you know you're doing a good job. Gandhi once said, where there is love, there is life. And I think the one question that I have to address to all of you guys in the city council would be, are we attempting as a city to grow and inject life into our city at a rate that vastly outpaces the necessary factor that I think comes alongside that, which is simultaneously cultivating a community that prioritizes love, the thing that we want to be defined by. So are we going to go ahead and we're going to say, this is what is most important. We're going to build so many retail spaces, restaurants, and more art galleries. I love art galleries. And we're going to cram every single square inch of downtown with money-making enterprise. But while we're doing that, we're leaving out the thing that kind of makes all that run, this idea of love. And I think it's the thing that matters most. So I think even in a plan like the downtown master plan, there has to be room for love. And what plan is, I mean, a plan is a plan only if it can move, if it can shift a little bit. I don't think that a plan has to be a bulletproof thing. And I'd just like to say on behalf of our congregations, a lot of who couldn't be here tonight and probably are a little bit scared to come up and talk. I know I'm shaking. But at our church, love is the most important thing for us. We love it here. We love being a part of this community. We have the privilege of calling this place home. When we love those who live here, those people who are our neighbors, our coworkers, our kids' teachers, our waiters and our waitresses, our lifties. You know, Whitefish is our city, and we love it here. So all this to say, if love does live here, and it takes up residence in downtown Whitefish, then us as a faith community that champions love and attempts to do that in every single action that we take, is there room for us as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Colton. Bruce Tate, and then Terry, and then I have Len Bennett signed up to speak as well.
Good evening.
Hi, Bruce.
I'm Bruce Tate. I live at 1800 West Lakeshore Drive. I'm the last native-born Whitefish person on the West Shore, and it grieves me to say that. This is a tourist town, but it's got a lot of good people in it, too. Our Presbyterian church, over across the street here from the proposed project, was built in 1921. In that building, I want all the Presbyterians to put their hands in their pockets. And I'd like to ask the rest of the group here, how many of you have been in that building? Pretty good number, maybe about a third or so. If you haven't been there, please come in sometime and just walk through it. It's a beautiful building. It's a treasure for Whitefish and for the northwestern part of the state with the stained glass windows. We have in excess of 100 members in that church. I was baptized in that church shortly after Hitler committed suicide. That's a long time ago. There's no relationship. Let's be clear about that. But it was a long time ago. And I hope to be buried from that church. But I have a fear, a real concern, that if we insert another very viable church, and there's a difference between fresh life and old life. Gray hair, walking funny because you've got mobility issues that are getting worse by the year. And it's a serious problem for those of us. We've got a majority of seniors at the First Presbyterian Church. And I'm one of the younger seniors. Now that's kind of scary, isn't it? So, and as I think about this parking issue, it's a major one, because if during weather like this, or if we have serious parking jam-ups in the Sunday service time, and services, people gather at 9:30, the services from 10 to 11, and then fellowship hall afterwards, which wraps up 11:45 or 12. It's not just 1 hour, it's like 2.5 hours where we gather over at the church and do the whole thing. And when you think about that, and I hear what on the surface sounds like a really nice offer from Fresh Life, we'll work around the schedule and so on, but it really concerns me when we might look at a real shortening of people, or a shorter list of people that could walk 2 blocks or 2.5 blocks to make the Presbyterian Church service. So parking really is a key to this thing, and I know it's not supposed to be recognized, but for me, the greatest concern is as I grow in years and less mobility, I want to always be able to make it to the level in that church where there's an elevator and I can get up into the sanctuary. And I'm afraid that may not always be possible, and certainly not possible for some of my seniors beyond my age.
You're right at 3 minutes, Bruce.
I don't know how we make that time arrangement work. I don't think we can, but maybe we could try. Thank you.
Thanks very much for your comments, Bruce. Terry?
Thank you, Mayor Mulfield. And yes, my last name is Balaska, and I live at 515 West 9th Street. And thank you, council members, for being here too. I'm concerned mainly with the mass of the church, the way it's proposed. The way I understand it, when the planning board looked at it, I read something about 750, and then it went up to 10,000, and now it's been redesigned, and it's more than that. So the mass of the building, the footprint of the building, I understand, is bigger than what the planning board even had questions about. So that's kind of got my concern, just the size of it. But something was said tonight that got me too, is I know the church is grown for a very good reason, and has grown in Kalispell, in downtown area Kalispell. I don't know Kalispell's master plan, but it was mentioned tonight that that block, it's core commercial. I question if Fresh Life's church is core commercial. Someone mentioned spirituality, so maybe they are balancing their commercialism and spiritualism, which I can totally see, but I don't think that's the intention. I think core commercial means traditional commercial business, and that's what that master plan, the way I understand it, says to happen in Whitefish. So here I have, my concern is a building structure that is got bigger than what is supposed to be in that area. The footprint is bigger, the mass of the structure is bigger, and it doesn't go with the core commercial master plan. So like someone, Mr. Tate said, or someone said, there's big areas around that this church that has a history of growing can actually grow into. I'm very concerned also just with their perspective and their health, starting in a small limited area, because their track record is they're going to grow, and thank goodness they're going to grow, so love can live here. But it grows out from here. It doesn't go to a little building and go out. So the master plan, the size of the building, and the ability for this church to continue to succeed, I think you really should consider not letting them build in that spot. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry, for your comments. Len Bennett, and then Cassie Monaco, and Mr. Osborne, if I pronounced that correctly.
My name to sign in, and I cannot speak in public, so I love Fresh Life. And
Just name and address,
sorry,
please, for the
okay,
record.
it's, Len Bennett.
Thanks.
750 Northwoods Drive. And so I'm just concerned for the elderly. Talking about love, this is probably the most loving church I've ever stepped into, is First Presbyterian. And I can't speak in public, so I'm just saying I hope that someone will have concern for the elderly that have a hard time having access to church. That's my heart for them, is to be able to go to church. They've poured so much into the community, and I think we should honor and respect them. And that's it.
Thanks, Len. Appreciate your comments.
Hi, good evening. Cassie Monaco, 336 Sawtooth Drive, Whitefish. Well, I'm here to oppose granting a conditional permit to Fresh Life Church. I'm also in agreement with the parking, the chaos that it would cause the residents in the vicinity, and also it doesn't quite seem to fit the master plan. At the planning meeting, several representatives from Fresh Life made the statement that they just want to be good neighbors. And I love that, but I'm not quite sure how true that statement is, because the neighbors got up and spoke. And they spoke with knowledge and intelligence and passion, not opposing Fresh Life Church at all, just not having them at 334 Central Avenue. As a matter of fact, we were being good neighbors by suggesting other places for them to be in Whitefish. We want them to have a presence in Whitefish. We just don't want it to be where it takes away from the eloquence of our town, the charm, and the timelessness of our town. A mega church just doesn't become her. The planning board did well. They did right when they unanimously denied the permit. And I respectfully ask you to send the right message to our community by denying this permit. We do embrace and Fresh Life with open arms. Like I said, just not at 334 Central Avenue. Thank you.
Thanks, Casey. Kerry and Eric Greenberg.
Hi, Mayor and Council. I'm Eric Greenberg, 416 Central Avenue. My wife spoke at the planning board meeting and she said that it was my turn. And
Kerry.
it's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy place for me to be, but I do want to voice. I mean, I'm the neighbor there, and I want to voice my concern about parking and about the noise. And I think that somebody used a term that granting the CUP would be a grace. That's something that would be offered if you could show a reason that it would, you know, you could make a case for why you would make a decision that didn't fit with the master plan. And so I think that what happens is there have been people, you know, I appreciate Ron Brunk's call to civility, but there have been people who have said really positive things about Fresh Life Church, and that's great. But the only thing to counter that with is saying, well, wait a minute, what happened in Kalispell? So I want to point that out. I don't trust that some of the things that are said, like that they're going to sell off that property. I don't see how you make someone be a non-church property for the next 50 years. I mean, how would you even require that? So I don't trust that those things are going to happen. And also because, again, a good point was made that you say you want to be a good neighbor, but then here were your neighbors saying this is really not the best place for that, and the planning board denied it, and you didn't pull your request. So that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So that's what I wanted to say was that we talked about whether this meets the master plan, and I think I'm not sure whether it meets the master plan. It certainly doesn't meet the master vision. I think I heard somebody else use that term. And I think the reason we know that it doesn't meet the master vision is because the vision of Whitefish are the people that have come here and spoken. And I think it's pretty clear that it's not their vision for this to be in this location. So, thanks.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate the comments. Bob and Fran? Oh, Kerry, sure. I thought Eric got you off the hook.
I'm the wife, Kerry Greenberg. I'm Kerry Greenberg, 416 Central Avenue. And I don't know much about this first point I'm going to make, but it has something to do with the master plan. And from what I can tell in Whitefish, there are no other, and I don't know a different word for this, but like chain stores. And from what I've heard about Fresh Life, it's, again, I don't know how true this is, but that it's a national organization. And so that feels odd to me, that, you know, there's no Walmarts, there's no duplicates. All of the businesses downtown are unique. And so that feels odd to me and not in compliance with the master plan. And my second point is, I also question, like Mr. Tate, how it is a nice offer that they'll work with the other churches on times, but if two churches start at 10 and one church starts at 9, and all of the people of those churches, including Fresh Life, are going to stay and eat and shop afterwards. It's not going to work out. It's going to take up, there's just going to be a fourth church with parking issues. And adding to the parking issues, for whatever reason, our block between 4th and 5th doesn't get plowed ever, maybe twice a winter. I'm not sure why. I think it's the boulevard, and parking is already, it is another issue. And I mean, we're constantly dealing with ruts this big, and but people somehow get up and over it and park in all sorts of weird configurations in front of our house. There's never any parking in front of our house, so I have big concerns about parking. I think it is an issue. That's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Kerry. Bob and Fran? Oh, not a problem. No, you're not compelled to speak. Preston and Margie, and then Paul, whoever would like to approach.
I think you would prefer Margie, but I'll do my best. Preston Spencer, 276 Whispering Meadows Trail, Kalispell. We also have land in the High Point neighborhood, and we're planning to build in Whitefish. I would like to go on record of opposing the approval of the conditional use permit. I think the tax exempt privilege comes with some responsibilities as an asset to the community. I don't want to pit Whitefish against Kalispell. They're both phenomenal towns, and I call them both home, and I think they're great. Fresh Life Church in Kalispell has had some issues. There's a lot of comments about that. Some of that could just be attributed to growing pains, unintentional. But I think they're going to continue to have growing pains. And I think it would be much better for them to find a location where their growth could be accommodated. I don't think their proposal fits with the city plan or the future of what could be available down in Whitefish. And I don't see this as trampling on anybody's religious freedoms or anything like that. We're just trying to say, try and fit into the community the best you can. And in the downtown city core is probably not the best fit. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And last, Valerie, or excuse me, Paul. And again, if you didn't sign up, it certainly doesn't preclude you from providing comment tonight. All are welcome.
Okay, I'm Paul McCann. I live at 340 Summers Avenue. And my wife and I, we built a house on Summers Avenue there, and because we wanted to be part of the downtown area. And we really, one of the greatest benefits of Whitefish, besides all the natural wonders, is the downtown area. And so it's very important to us, and that's what brought me here tonight. I look at this floor plan right behind you there, and Fresh Life is a growing church, and I'm all the power to you, and I think it's great to have a viable church. And I say, well, they'll be growing, and they'll outgrow their space there, and then where are they going to expand? Well, naturally, they're going to go to the front of the space there. That's the expansion area. And sure, they said they might sell it to somebody else, but can they lease it for their, church functions, committee rooms, bookstores, coffee shops, or whatever? I'm just saying that's where it'll expand. So that's a concern of mine in the future. And another, just a little story. I was in the title insurance business in Billings before I moved here 7 years ago. And my first location, I went into a strip center, and it was on a good corridor, and everything looked great. But I realized, the mix in the building was not very good for me, and I was forced to vacate that building and move to another area where it had a better mix of comparable businesses and so forth. And I learned something that is a very important thing. And then when I opened up more and more locations, I always looked compatible use, the mix, and so forth. Does it work for my business, which is a professional office, and so forth. And that's what I see here is this church is not in the proper mix for Central Avenue. It's a retail, commercial location, and here we're introducing a church into that location. And that will, I think it'll damage the other commercial buildings uses on Central Avenue. And Central Avenue is a retail strip. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate the comments. John?
Joan Vetter Ehrenburg, 744 Hidden Valley Drive. Greetings, Honorable Mayor Malfeld and Councilors Richard Hildner, Andy Fury, Ryan Hennon, welcome, John, Katie Williams, Frank Sweeney, and Melissa Hartman. Big night tonight. I gave you my packet because it wasn't fully included at the planning board meeting. So one page, the first page was included, but not the other 4 or 5 that I handed you of the actual locations of the 43 groups. So when I went today to freshlife.church to look at the website to reprint for tonight, because I knew it wasn't included in the planning board packet, their website was changed. And so the last page of the information I gave you shows only 3 meetings in Kalispell instead of 43. Now, my one point, which I'll get to before my written comments, my other 6, is you can't tell me you're going to spend this much money and only meet at 8 a.m. on Sunday and have that much square footage sit empty all week. So right now they're meeting in Kalispell in 43 locations in homes because they don't have their church finished and they're growing and things are happening. And that's great. That's fantastic. But you know you're going to use that building. Why would you want to build it if you're not going to use it? It doesn't make sense. So my comments are, the Candlewick Shop is a landmark historic building. That will be sliced in half and gone, and it's a signature building to our town. The applicant proposes to build a basement for the church 7 feet below street level. As per Tim Murphy, the adjacent landowner and the business at 346 Central Avenue, there are groundwater issues and high groundwater, and they were not permitted to build a basement. He has a daylight basement only for storage. As you're aware, several area businesses in Whitefish frequently have issues with high groundwater as we built the town on a riverbed. We know that. If you approve the building and they hit high groundwater for the church area, then what happens? We have to go back and make a review, and it's already done. The horse has left the barn. As Doc Hoffman said, at the back of North Valley Hospital, when they're trying to approve all the condos out on Montera, and they said, well, get a hydrologist. The hydrologist said, oh, groundwater's fine. Doc gets up in the back of the room. I've been digging post holes in that field for 50 years, and every time I dig one, it's full of water. Guess what? There's no condos on the soccer fields because it's high groundwater.
John, let's please stick to the merits of this particular application.
Thank you. Just the hydrology.
And you're 3 minutes.
I have no right to speak about hydrology to you. Fresh Life Church is not utilized just one Sunday morning. As you can see, I mentioned this before. It's not difficult to conclude that the building will be highly utilized, and there'll be continual demands on parking that will detract from adjacent businesses of which they will suffer. I don't see any adjacent businesses supporting this CUP. Simply by exceeding the 7,500 square feet threshold of the WB3 zoning district and having a church on the ground level where only retail is designed by the master plan, you can deny this proposal. To me, it looks like with a church entrance on the retail, that means the church is on Central Avenue, so I don't know how you read that, but you guys are the experts. And then our business community and the wider Friends of Whitefish should not bear the full brunt and burden imposed by this developer. Please keep that in mind. They're making money and obviously very profitable, and their location since 2007 in Whitefish, Kalispell, Jackson Hole, Portland, Great Falls, Butte, Salt Lake City, Helena, Polson, Billings, Bozeman, Missoula, Lethbridge, Alberta, and Williston, North Dakota.
15-second warning, John.
I think of all the notes I took from tonight, I'll say a plan is a plan to offer directive and not shred. And please respect the planning board. Thank you for denying this CUP.
Thank you, Joan. Further public comments tonight on this item?
My name is Maya Tragidja. I live at 540 State Park Road, number 21. I attend the Presbyterian Church regularly, and my first comment that I sent in was about the parking. But after listening tonight and sitting behind the pastor and his, whoever it is, and listening carefully, I am a Quaker. We speak truth to power. And another value that we have is integrity. And I think the council needs to look inside themselves and ask themselves what they heard that was integrity tonight and what they heard was, yeah, but. Or, well, we said this, but we'll do that. Look for integrity. It's an important thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Maya. Further public testimony? Sir.
My name's David Perry, and I live at 1410 Line Mountain Road in Whitefish. And I want to thank you guys for putting this together tonight. Thank you for your service to the community. Appreciate it. I scratched most of the things off my notes. They've been brought up so many times that I don't need to bring them up again. I've lived here for 40 years, moved here in 1977, and I've seen this town go through a lot of changes. And I've seen everything always seems to work out in the end for what is good for the community. As Whitefish is good as extending an open hand for goods and services, my family and I believe that this facility will be a great asset to the community, and especially the downtown area. It'll be a place where people can find it easily, and it serves as ministering to the soul of our community. It's a great place to live. We raised our kids here, and we hope you guys will approve this CUP. Thank you.
Thanks, David.
My name's Peter Edlund, 107 Dakota Avenue, and I just think this project's probably not the right fit for downtown. I don't think it matches the 2 blocks north of it, and I'm really concerned about expansion. Like somebody else commented, I can't see the church not expanding into those 4 spaces in some way, and so I don't see that as a retail thing. It feels like it'll end up being a faith thing or a spiritual thing, which is fine, but it's just not really the character of Whitefish. And I think when they bought this property, they probably knew that, and Whitefish is kind of a test case. If they can get a Fresh Light Church downtown Whitefish, you could probably get it anywhere in Montana. So I think there were plenty of places in town that it could go. I think they did a great job. The project looks great, but I don't think it's the right fit. Parking's obviously always going to be an issue. Across the street, I don't know what's going in over there, but it can't be small. So I encourage you not to approve the CPU or CUP, whatever it is. And thanks for your work and all your time.
Thanks, Peter. Who's next? Further public comments? Chris.
Good evening again. My name is Chris Shustrim. I keep thinking I'm not going to have to use these, but I just can't get away with it. I just wanted to confirm, I'm also a board member of the Heart of Whitefish. I live at 504 Spokane Avenue. I wanted to first confirm that the council received the comments I submitted to you all. These were submitted to the planning board as well. Just to sort of, the council doesn't have the luxury of making decisions based on the intrinsic values of a certain use or proposed use, that sort of thing. You have the adopted growth policy and the downtown master plan, which is an adopted part of the growth policy, and the zoning, which is appropriate for the WB3 zone. And so I'll just sort of reiterate a couple of points that are specific to that. The downtown master plan calls for this block of Central to be developed with ground floor, front to back, side to side retail. If you look at the other buildings north of 3rd Street, which are also called out as this block should be developed similar to that, the retail uses on those, they use all of that ground floor. They have offices, they have storage, that sort of thing. And so the question you have to ask is whether this proposed use meets the intent of the zoning, which the planning board recognized and recommended an additional finding of fact that it does not meet the intent of the zoning. A specific question to this most recent rendering also is that the lobby area for the primary use is on the ground floor. Does that technically make the ground use, the primary use on the ground floor as well? It's a technical question, but one that has to be considered. In addition, second floor uses, such as those going in across the street at the Frank Lloyd Wright building, they have to provide parking. Residential is required to provide parking in the WB3 zone. A church is not required to provide parking. Parking is an issue, but retail buildings and a non-business is not required to provide parking downtown. So it's pretty hard for the council to say that you have to require parking. A more important question is whether this use complies with the requirements of the downtown master plan and the requirements of the WB3 zone, and it certainly doesn't appear to do that. And no matter how one looks at the split level design, why go down 7 feet and why go up 7 feet to create a design that, you know, is pretty creative? It certainly doesn't meet the intent of the zoning, and it doesn't meet the intent of the downtown master plan. And so I would just ask that the council look at those specific requirements and intents for the zoning and the plans that we have in place, and as submitted, deny this application. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris. Who's next?
Good evening, my name is Ryan Vernon. I live at 604 Columbia Avenue. I have not prepared an eloquent speech, but I would like to say that I've heard everyone speak tonight. Parking is an issue, but I would like to tell you that we do park downtown every weekend, as you know. We park right across the street from the Performing Arts Center, and we are there from 6 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon, setting up and tearing down. If we did have a permanent location, we would spend much less time taking up those parking spaces so that others could utilize those parking spaces. I would also like to add that some of us do walk to church. I walk to church almost every Sunday along with a lot of fellow church members. That is something that we can encourage others to do. It's a healthy encouragement. I'd also like to add that the time that we do spend loading and unloading every morning, by cutting that time down, we could spend that time helping in the community, picking up trash, picking up vomit that we find in the mornings from Saturday night partying. I would implore you to allow this building space. Please don't build another bar. We see what happens on Saturday and Friday nights. And I would love if the community could help us to encourage people to spend their time in a positive environment. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Further public testimony on this item? Further comments from the public? Not seeing any, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and we are just going to take a brief recess and we'll reconvene at 9:10. I had to stand up. Not at all. That didn't even cross my mind. I just wanted to kind of bring it back to this. No, no worries. Right. It would have to be engineered and demonstrated though. But thanks.
Oh, Joe. And, you know, I knew about it for years, but I'd never been there.
We're going to go ahead and get started. If folks could take a seat, please. We're back in session. I just wanted to thank everyone that did comment for adhering to our 3 to 4 minute comment period. I really appreciate that. And secondly, as we deliberate and as a motion comes down one way or another, please refrain from clapping, booing, applauding. Let's show mutual respect as we deliberate the rest of this issue. With that said, we did close the public hearing on item 6C, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it back to council for a motion or discussion. Who would like to begin?
I'll go ahead and make a motion if I may, Mr. Mayor.
Please.
I'll move to deny WCUP 17-15 and adopt findings of fact 3-7. To address how I arrived at my motion to deny, and speaking to my motion, I'd like to look at finding number 3, and I find that it does not conform with aspects of policy 3 of the downtown master plan, where it does not, and this is aspects of, it does not put commercial or multifamily residential above the ground floor retail space. As noted on page 281, the growth policy of the packet, growth policy compliance, the proposed church use precludes full use of the parcel for commercial or retail, which detracts from the goal to strengthen the role of downtown as the commercial, financial, or administrative center of the community. Finding 7, parking will have a negative impact on, and I emphasize, adjacent residential neighborhoods. This will likely be exacerbated if the south end of Central Avenue ends up being turned into a cul-de-sac. With regards to finding 10 follows along with 7. Indications are that the church will have operations other than Sundays, further straining residential parking, if only from church staff and those attending other activities during the week. Finding 12, the project does not address community and neighborhood compatibility. The existing churches in the neighborhood predate the downtown master plan. And finding 13, as proposed by the planning board, deals with the issue that we see in the sketch of the proposed floor plan with the failure to have commercial not only side to side but front to back. And when I see that this front, is there anyway, the front retail, the northeast corner, that one, for example, is only 728 feet, 730 feet. The one behind it is 780 some feet. Without any office or storage space, I just can't imagine what sort of a retail space would be there if you were to limit it and not be able to go front to back. The same would be true for the 2 retail spaces below, which are slightly larger, but again are limited in size, which really limits, I believe, the functionality of the site, consistent with finding 13.
Thank you, Richard. Any further comments on the discussion or motion? Not seeing any. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Those opposed, like sign. And that motion carries on a 5-1 vote with Councilor Williams voting in opposition. Thanks, everyone, for your time tonight. Please drive home safely, and
Thank you. Sorry. Sorry. Thank you. Yeah. What's next? Oh, good. When are you moving up here?
I'm gonna get so much hate mail.
Richard, where are you going? If folks could clear out to the lobby, we still have business to attend to, please. Thanks. We'll move on to item 7A, which will be Resolution 18-9, establishing the Highway 93 South Corridor Planning Steering Committee. Hillary, where's Dave handling this? Dave.
So we're getting ready to start on our Highway 93 West corridor plan. And as part of that process, we seek the council's direction with regard to the makeup of a steering committee. We discussed this with you at the last meeting. You guys had a couple concerns about our projected makeup, at least Mr. Sweeney did, and so we sat down with him, came up with 9 people for the committee, which would be 2 city council representatives, 1 city planning board representative, 2 business owners in or adjacent to the corridor, 2 owner occupants of residential property in or adjacent to the corridor, and then 2 at-large city residents. And so we have a resolution to that effect. If you guys pass that tonight, then we will begin the advertising process, set a timeline for the applications, and then you guys will obviously be interviewing for those potential candidates for the steering committee.
Thanks, Dave. Any questions for Dave on his staff report or the resolution? Frank.
I'm going to move to approve the resolution, but I just wanted to speak a little bit to what Dave said. And something I want to raise for Chris and others who had concerns about it. One of the reasons that we've decided as a city, I think, to try to limit the number of members on a particular board or is for workability and for manageability. We also recognize that some things like this, or the downtown master plan, have many more interested parties that want to participate. The makeup of this board, I have said from the beginning, I think Dave has said this, we fully expect and want an awful lot of regular, non-appointed members of the community to show up and participate. And to the extent people are watching this and are concerned about the size of the committee and thinks it needs to be bigger, please know that you are welcome to self-appoint yourself, and please come and join us as we pursue this 93 South corridor plan. So, there you go.
Motion?
Motion to approve.
Please. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilor Fury. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please raise your hand, and those opposed, like sign, and that's unanimous. Michelle, thanks, Dave. We'll move on to item 8A, which is consideration to award a bid to cutting-edge excavation for the Depot Park Master Plan, and this will be for the Phase 1 project. Maria.
Good evening. My staff report is on page 496 in your packet, and it outlines the history of Depot Park, the master plan, and the history of the Depot Park building, but for the sake of brevity, I will stick to just the highlights. The property known as Depot Park was acquired from 2006 to 2009 in accordance with the 2006 Whitefish Downtown Business District Master Plan, with the intention of providing the community a centralized downtown green space in perpetuity. And in 2011, you folks appointed a 10-member Depot Park Steering Committee to develop the Depot Park Master Plan, and that plan was approved in 2012. In 2016, the Parks and Recreation Department contracted with RPA and Bruce Booty to work on the final design of the Depot Park Master Plan. Throughout 2016, there were several opportunities and a proposal to lease the Depot Park building. Those were discussed through several public meetings, and ultimately in November of 2016, the council declared the building surplus and open it up for bids. We did receive one bid, and that was from North Valley Music School, and that was for $20. And that was awarded. However, in April of 2017, North Valley Music School informed the city that they no longer wanted the building. So we moved for demolition of that building, and on May 25th, the Parks and Recreation Department received an asbestos report stating that there was asbestos in the Depot Park building that was a non-fireable Category 1 asbestos-containing material. That then required that it exceeded the $80,000 threshold and required that we go out for a sealed bid. In August of 2017, the city signed an agreement with RPA to move forward with the engineering design, and a working group held regular meetings through that design phase. Bid documents for the project were scheduled to be completed in the winter, and it was proposed that the bid award would be in February of 2018. And in December of 2017, RPA presented the Depot Park Master Plan to the Park Board, and the Park Board of Commissioners unanimously approved the plan as presented. We then advertised for sealed bids in the Daily Interlake on January 21st, January 28th, and February 4th of this year. All bids were to be received by 11:30 a.m. Friday, February 9th, 2018, and 4 sealed bids were received, publicly opened, and read aloud at City Hall on that date. The bids ranged from 31% lower to 25% higher than the engineer's estimate of $408,400. The apparent low bidder for the project was Cutting Edge Excavation of Columbia Falls, with the low bid of $279,972. The bid tabulations are included in the packet for your review, and notably, the final demolition cost for the building, including asbestos remediation services, came in at $35,000. This is between them in particular, and why they would have bid them differently.
Okay. Thank you.
Frank.
I would just offer one other comment. I am more pleased than maybe anybody else. Excuse me. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay. I'm more pleased than almost anybody can stand that this bid, particularly for the demolition and removal of that building, came in at $35,000 and not the exorbitant price that was advertised by our friends at the, at the chamber, that this is going to cost us in excess of $120,000. This is more consistent with the original or initial bids and even forecasts. Yes, it's higher, but not significantly in the scope of this project. So thank you very much, Maria.
Related to that, Maria, have we reached out to the individual who offered to contribute towards the demolition?
And that was T. Bauer. That was several months ago. I had confirmed that he is still offering the $20,000 that he had originally offered.
Okay, very generous. Further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Those opposed, like sign, and that carries unanimously. And if you'd like, let's go ahead and draft a letter thanking him for that generous donation to our park. I'll help
Thank
you
you.
craft that if you'd like. We'll move on to item 9A, recommendation from Craig to upgrade the 187 lights in the downtown area, which was a subject of our work session just a few weeks ago. Craig.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My staff report begins on page 502 of your packet, and I'm going to spare you the gory details of our lighting history in town, but I will tell you that currently the city's street lighting system is comprised of about 982 lights, 64 electrical services, and nearly 100 miles of wire. According to our electrician, Mark Hyder, if we were to spread our lighting system out in a line, it would go all the way from here to Summers, so exciting information. I'll also tell you that in 2016, our street lighting system comprised about 6% of our total greenhouse gas emissions as a city, and so one of the main emphases, I don't know, however you pluralize that, one of the biggest, I'm going to have to say emphases again. The Climate Action Plan has spent a lot of effort looking at our city street lighting system, and one of their major recommendations is that we upgrade the current system to LED. LED bulbs on an average last about 2.5 times that of our current high-pressure sodium bulbs and use about 50% of the energy. And so based on those statistics, Flathead Electric Co-op has had for quite some time energy incentives for LED lighting upgrades. Unfortunately, those incentives are sunsetting in the near future, and so in an effort to capitalize on two of the areas where we still think we can grab some of those more lucrative rebates, we're looking at two of the downtown kind of lighting grids. Those are shown on a map in your packet, which begins on page, I think it's on page 504, 505, excuse me. So there's 46 lights in the Highway Phase 1, which is the green area of that map, and 141 lights in sort of that, I guess, which shows up as sort of grayish on that, that map behind you. The map I'm looking at, it's kind of a khaki color. Anyway, 141 lights in that district that we're looking to upgrade. And then there's kind of a call out on the map shown in the top right corner. Those are 18 fixtures which have already been upgraded. Mark and the crew at Elliott Electric did that a couple of months ago in an effort to kind of showcase what the new LED lights would look like with the warmer color that's recently come on the market. So in total, those two areas with the rebates would cost approximately $10,885. That assumes that we will be subcontracting the majority of the labor for those fixtures. This is outlined on the table in my staff report. Although these dollars are not included in the 2018 fiscal year budget, we do anticipate that within a couple of years we will be able to pay those back through energy incentives if we take a short-term loan from the general fund. I've worked that out with Dana already, and I can tell you, although she's not here, she did review this financial section of my report. So based on those statistics, the energy and cost savings, the current incentives available, and the preliminary recommendations of the Climate Action Committee, I do respectfully request that we upgrade these 187 lights to LED.
Thanks, Craig. Any questions for Craig? Richard? Motion?
I'm going to make a motion.
Please do.
Because this has been kicking around in the Climate Action Plan, and I think that this is, some things are coming to fruition. It's been highlighted and daylighted, nightlighted, sorry, as a result of some of that, and the initiative of the Public Works Department. So I would, which I'll move to authorize Public Works Department to upgrade the 141 lights in the commercial area and the 46 lights in the Highway Phase 1 area, converting them to LED.
Thank you, Richard. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Who got that one? I'll give that to Frank. You didn't? Seconded by Councilor Fury. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Those opposed, like sign, and that carries unanimously. Thanks, Craig. And since Dana's not here, I think I'll turn the next item, which is Resolution 18-10, over to Adam. He'll cover Dana's staff report, which is enclosed in the packet.
All right, so this goes back, excuse me, this goes back to the snow lot. So there's a process that we need to go through in order to get this into the TIF boundary. And so part of that is updating the urban renewal district. And so this is just another one of those formalities that we have to do prior to putting it in the TIF district. And you know, the staff report pretty much speaks for itself, but I can do the best I can to answer any questions that may come up. But just another one we're gonna have to go through at some point too is a rezone and things of that nature too. So there'll be a bit of a process here attached to the snow lot. But again, every step of the way, there is an opportunity for council to continually review the, you know, the ongoing actions of what's occurring. Just by way of update, the Housing Plan Steering Committee did appoint an ad hoc committee to kind of review the snow lot, and I know they're going to be moving forward here soon on various options to consider for that space.
Thanks, Adam. Any question for Adam on Dana's staff report? And we'll need a motion to call for a public hearing with the resolution of intention to modify the TIF district boundary to include the snow lot. Katie.
I move to approve Resolution 18-10, a resolution of intent to set a public hearing on the proposed amendment to the City of Whitefish Urban Renewal Plan, modifying the boundaries of the City of Whitefish Urban Renewal District to include a blighted area in the need of redevelopment and rehabilitation, and to reaffirm the development of affordable housing near downtown as an urban renewal project.
I second.
Seconded by Councilor Hennon. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please raise your hand, and those opposed, like sign, and that motion carries unanimously. Thanks, Adam. We'll move on to item 11A. You have Adam's report enclosed with the packet. Any questions for Adam? Adam, anything else to report on?
Just that all the sheetrock is up in the lease space, the final lease space, and it was fire taped today. So the fire tape ends pretty much the city's involvement in the project. We're still working on a couple other issues along with the site that we hope to have managed here in the next couple of weeks. And I do know that Molly hopes to be painting either by this weekend or early next week. So I know she wants to do an early open, and hopefully we'll see that happen.
That's great. Thanks, Adam. I'll move on to item 12A, which is the consideration of our appointments to the Whitefish Tourism Master Plan Steering Committee. I'll just run through those appointments real quickly, which were made in our work session, but for the public's benefit, I'll go through those names now. So our at-large members, which constitutes 5 of the 9 positions, we went ahead and appointed Megan Powell, Stephen Thompson, Maria Juice, if I'm pronouncing that correctly? Jose, excuse me. Brian Schott, Lauren Oslowski, excuse me. Nick Columbus from Whitefish Mountain Resort. Craig Workman will serve as our transportation infrastructure expert. Michelle Hauk from city staff, and Andy Fury graciously volunteered to be on the committee as well. So those are the appointments that were made in our work session prior to our regular meeting. With that said, we'll move on to councilor comments, and we'll start with Richard.
Did you need anybody to affirm?
We did in the work session.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
Shocking as it may be, I have no comment.
Thanks, Richard. Andy?
Nothing.
Thanks, Andy. Ryan?
No comment.
Thanks, Ryan. Katie?
No comment.
Thanks, Katie. Frank?
It was a great President's Day weekend, notwithstanding the weather.
Melissa? Thanks, Frank.
I just want to say thank you to Adam for putting together the orientation, which was incredible, and I appreciate getting to meet so many of our city staff, and it's just an honor to be able to work with all of you. So thanks, and that was a wonderful experience, and I look forward to doing it again.
Second.
That's great. Anything further from staff? We are adjourned. Thanks very much. Yeah, you are.
What's that?